If you come to the mic and talk, you have to talk into it because I think this is as loud as our sound system gets. Once again, I'd like to welcome everybody to our annual banquet. There are plenty of seats for everybody. If you're in a seat you don't like, you see one open somewhere else, when you come back with your food, feel free to switch up a little bit. As you know, McShin was founded in 2004, and we've come a long way in 2004. And we have a lot to be proud of, a lot to celebrate, and this is a big year for us. And we couldn't be more delighted than to be back at the War Memorial for our annual event, and I'm glad so many of y'all attended. We're going to do things pretty much the way we always do it, except this year, before we eat, Ed's going to give his talk after we do the Pledge of Allegiance and the opening prayer. And the reason that is, in case Ed gives a bad talk, he feels like we're going to whoop him, he can get on up out of here. Well, if he gives a good talk, then he'll stay. So, you know, it's up to us. But anyways, I just got my agenda. I know we have a couple elected folks here. We're glad you all showed up tonight. I see Tony Spencer in the back from Prosecutor, Commonwealth Attorney from Caroline. And I see one of our stellar supporters from the Bowling Green Town Council, ma'am. Jean, that's right, Jean. And I'm panning the room quickly because I don't have a list of anybody else that's elected. I know Sheriff Wade said he was coming. I don't see him. Anybody else elected? And I'm not talking GSR or AA Home Group. But we're glad y'all come out. And, you know, before we go, you know, I always like to, you know, just thank the clients, the people, the board, and everybody for making this possible. I see some old board members in the house, and I anticipate a really, you know, special time tonight. And as we go through the evening, you know, we'll be thanking some more folks, of course. But I'm on a schedule, so we're going to do something different this year and go by the schedule. For a while, anyways. Before we do our prayer, because after we do the Pledge of Allegiance, I'm sure we're going to need a prayer. So, but Terry Kenham, he's a 10-year board member, our most distinguished board member. He always starts us out with the Pledge of Allegiance. So Terry, come on up and open this up with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening. My name is Terry Kenham. I'm a board member here at McShin and a person in long-term recovery, which for me means that I have not found it necessary to take a drink or a drug for almost 32 years. In a few minutes, I'll ask all present to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. One other way I've been described recently by someone about 100 miles north of here is that I'm one of an elite group, and that's a domestic terrorist. That was funny. I feel a deep sense of humility whenever I enter these hallowed grounds and facilities of the Virginia War Memorial, especially when viewing the names of those fallen veterans. Recently presented to the War Memorial is a flag, a United States flag, which was handcrafted in a Japanese prisoner of war camp by American servicemen. It's now on display here at the Virginia War Memorial, and I urge everyone at whatever time they can afford, at whatever date, to view that flag and know that the men who handcrafted the flag in color, had they been discovered, they would have been tortured and killed for doing that. It being the test of ultimate allegiance to our flag. It is truly significant and indicative of what our pledge to our flag means under God. During our recent history, our servicemen and women have experienced a significant increase in battlefield injury, many of which would in prior wars not survive. We are seeing, in addition to those, a tremendous increase in PTSD and TBI. I assume most everyone understands what those acronyms are. Further, addiction-related cases due to all this is on an unprecedented rise. The co-founder of the McShin Foundation is presently embarked on an internal study to determine how the foundation can best aid our stricken veterans and their families. Can we please give John Schinholzer a round of applause for this? Please remember that only two defining forces have ever offered to die for you: Jesus Christ and the American GI. One died for your soul, the other for your freedom. The veteran is a man or woman that signed a blank check payable to the people of the United States for up to and including their life. Please know that the U.S. veteran has fought for not hating what is in front of them, but for loving what is behind them. If you don't stand behind our troops, please feel free to stand in front of them. It is the veteran, not the preacher, who has given us freedom of religion. It is the veteran, not the reporter, who has given us freedom of the press. It is the veteran, not the poet, who has given us freedom of speech. It is the veteran, not the campus organizer, who has given us freedom to assemble. It is the veteran, not the lawyer, who has given us a right to the fair trial. It is the veteran, not the politician, who has given us the right to vote. It is the veteran who salutes the flag. It is a veteran who serves under it. May no soldier go unloved. May no soldier walk alone. May no soldier be forgotten until they all come home. All of us are aware of recent events discovered at some VA hospitals. Please demand from your elected representatives full accountability and the subsequent punishment for those responsible for the mistreatment and the subsequent death of many veterans. Further, demand from the politicians that the politicalization be taken out of those who administer to our veterans and the entire VA system. Eternal Father, rest grant them, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon them. The flag does not fly because of the wind that blows it. The flag flies because each soldier's final breath blows by it. Before I ask all of you to rise and join me in the pledge, we at McShin would like to honor all veterans in attendance today. At this time, as I call out the particular branch of the service that you served in, please stand and be recognized and remain standing until the rest of us join you. Those veterans, United States Air Force. Those veterans, United States Army. Those veterans, United States Coast Guard. Those veterans, United States Marine Corps. Those veterans of the United States Navy. Veterans, we thank each and every one of you for your service. Will everyone now please rise and join our veterans in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag, under God. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. Be seated. Thank you.
In case you don't know, Mr. Kenham is a United States Navy veteran. He probably served on the Arizona, but couldn't think of an older ship more famous. But we're going to do our prayer of honesty. Do we have somebody doing our invocation prayer? Huh? Me? Oh, this is going to be good. I'm going to like this. The Reverend John in the house. Huh? Who's the preacher? If you're the preacher, you got to give this girl, because he don't want me doing it. I get fired if I do it. You're on.
May we go before the Lord. Holy and righteous God, we give you praise, honor, and glory this day. We thank you for those who have served us well in the armed forces. We thank you for those you brought here today who support this wonderful foundation and support us in all things. We ask, Lord, that you bless this food in the hands that have prepared it. May it nourish our bodies and give us strength so that we may continue to leave this place and serve you in whichever way you call us. We ask this in Christ's holy name. Amen. Amen.
Thank you. Now, I did say we're going to do things a little bit different this year, but I do want to point out, in case you haven't noticed, we're very steeped in history in the McShin Foundation. We take a lot of pride in what we do, and we have a lot of faith here. And these folks, these pictures on the walls around you, these are Virginians who have died in our current conflict. So you eat and we celebrate in this room. We're all surrounded by those that did give their life so we could have this evening. Now, I think Ed may have to slip out at some point in time, so he's going to give his talk on the front end, and as soon as he gives his talk, we're going to orderly get up and go eat and come back to our tables and do the rest of our evening. So, with that, Ed, I'll be honest with you. Who would bring a phone in here and not turn it off? That's a $25 fine for anybody that has a phone. But as I introduced Ed, I just want you to know this. When I called out to his office and I asked him if he could come talk at our banquet, they did not hesitate. They were very enthusiastic and quick to want to come out and demonstrate that Ed wants to be our champion if he were to win his senatorial race. And we need champions in Washington, I promise you that. So I really don't know a lot about what he's going to say. I think recovery is close to his house, if I'm not mistaken, not mine to say. But I am honored and privileged, and I'm actually getting to like you, which is pretty good, So,
the night is young.
Right. And he traveled here with his wife, Kathy, and it's not easy driving down the Beltway in D.C. and the Northern Virginia traffic to get here. He does live in Northern Virginia, correct? Not everybody will hold that against you, but some will. But help us give us a warm McShin welcome to senatorial candidate Ed Gillespie.
Thank you all very much, John. Thank you. Terry, thank you for that inspiring introduction to the Pledge of Allegiance. It was fantastic, and as a son of two parents buried in a veteran cemetery, it meant a lot to me, and I appreciate the service of all of the veterans here who serve to protect our freedoms. John, thank you so much for having me here tonight. It's an honor to be with you this evening to recognize the important work of Greg Williams, and I also want to take some time to thank the McShin Foundation for the important work that you do as well. You offer hope and freedom, love and understanding. You are light at the end of a very dark tunnel. And it seems that today there are more people than ever in that dark tunnel. And we're seeing nothing short of an epidemic in this country of illicit drug use. It seems you cannot pick up a newspaper without reading a heartbreaking story of a young life cut short by an overdose. That you can't stand in line at a checkout counter without seeing a celebrity on the cover of a glossy magazine with a story about drug or alcohol-related behavior that's embarrassing and the cause of news coverage. Or worse, another report of a celebrity death from drug abuse. Here in our Commonwealth, 1 in 15 Virginians reported using illicit drugs in the past month, according to the most recent data. Prescription drug abuse, opioids and benzoids, is rampant. And as those are cracked down on, we're seeing a startling rise in heroin use. This chronic, progressive, and fatal disease does not discriminate. It affects people of every race, gender, age, and income level. The stories of addicts who grew up in inner city public housing projects are strikingly similar often to those who grew up in suburban McMansion tract houses. But the McShin Foundation has given the gift of a healthy and happy life to so many young people and spared so many parents the agonizing pain of losing a child to overdose. And for that, we appreciate you. There is no doubt about it. The work that you do is not just important, it is life-saving. It's not the work of a solitary brain surgeon in a sterile operating room wearing an antiseptic mask. It's more often the work of a community of people sitting in a basement room in a circle of plastic chairs with their masks down. And your work has helped educate the broader public about the disease of addiction, and for them to help them understand that those afflicted with it are not the subjects of their own moral failings, that we're not talking about bad people here, we're talking about sick people here. And because of that growing understanding, there is taking place today a re-examination of policies on both the left and the right of the political spectrum. For example, there's a growing bipartisan interest in potential reforms of mandatory minimum sentences for non-violent drug offenders and the impact that those sentences have on our society and our government budgets. And policymakers are taking a much closer look at how we allocate our spending in our justice system when 98% of funds go to incarceration and enforcement as opposed to only 2% that go to prevention and treatment. Over the past few months, I've met with leaders in the prisoner reentry community because I believe that we need policies that create jobs and offer the dignity of work not only for those coming out of high school and college or who have been unemployed in the job market, but for those who have paid their debt to society and are seeking to start a new and productive life after imprisonment. I know Sheriff Wade was going to be here this evening, and I was fortunate to spend some time with him last week to learn more about his rehabilitation program there, so impressive and innovative in the Henrico County Jail. And I was glad to hear that other facilities in Virginia and around the country are looking to emulate his approach. And in preparation for this evening's dinner, I was very interested to learn about the McShin-sponsored study of the Richmond City Jail, which demonstrated the effectiveness of recovery programs in reducing recidivism of former prisoners. The impressive results with recently released prisoners who participated in a faith-based recovery program having an 18% lower recidivism rate, which ended up saving taxpayers nearly $7 million over the 3.5 years of the study, deserves greater attention. If a renewed emphasis on prevention and early intervention of lives prevent more crime and save taxpayers money, we should pursue those policies. And as important as prevention and intervention are, there's much to be explored when it comes to supporting recovery as well. Now, there's not much I find in agreement with the current administration. But the Office of National Drug Control Policy was right in establishing a recovery branch in 2010, the first office ever to focus on Americans in recovery. I should make clear a few things, however. One, while I believe there are steps the federal government can take to address the problem of addiction, the vast majority of the solution is to be found in communities of support like McShin. And two, while I believe a fresh look at our approach to drug policies is warranted, a policy that views legalization as an answer wouldn't be acknowledging the problem of addiction so much as ignoring it, in my estimation. Now, last night, also in preparation for this evening's dinner with y'all, I watched The Anonymous People with Kathy. I will confess I watched it after the Wizards-Pacers game. But I watched it and enjoyed it, and I was moved by Greg Williams' efforts. And I'm very interested in the recovery movement and its ideas. I'm intrigued by efforts to erase the stigma of alcoholism and addiction in our culture. After all, 2/3 of American families are affected in some way by the disease. And you'd think that there would be even more widespread acceptance and understanding of its nature, although it is growing. But of course, many of the families struggling with addiction, dealing with its drain on emotions, time, energy, attention, and finances, don't realize they're dealing with a disease, or they're ashamed to seek help for it, which makes Greg's efforts all the more important, because there should be no shame in treating a disease, especially one so widespread as addiction. Now, obviously, everyone is entitled to their privacy when it comes to their health care. People taking medicine for high blood pressure don't run around saying, "I'm about to take my Lipitor." But at the same time, we should applaud the growing number of public figures who have stepped forward to share with us that they are in recovery, using their fame to encourage others to seek help. They may not get the same attention as those celebrities I mentioned earlier on the cover of the magazines, but they're making a significant difference in people's lives. And for those of us who don't suffer from addiction but know and love people in recovery, I'd venture to say that most share my experience, which is that the people I know in recovery are among the people I admire and respect most in the world. I've been inspired by my friends and loved ones in recovery. Sharing in their journey has made me a better person. I've learned lessons from them that serve me well and would serve anyone not in need of treatment. I try to live my life one day at a time. And if you saw my schedule, you would understand why. If you looked out over tomorrow and next week and the next month, you'd live one day at a time. And I try to be honest with myself and my loved ones, keep my own side of the street clean as best as I can. And having seen those in recovery leap to the aid of others desperate to get out from under the lash, reaching out their hands to help lift people from their personal bottoms that they've hit, well, when I see a father, husband, son, or brother dealing with the pain of addiction in a child, spouse, parent, or sibling, I reach out in support. And I feel I'm a better person for it. So I join in deep appreciation the hundreds of recovering addicts whose lives you've helped save and the thousands of their family members whose lives have been made better by your work. And for those who have not yet been blessed by recovery, know that the depths of active addiction can be more than offset by the heights of a working recovery, and that despair and loneliness can be replaced by joy and a sense of community. Greg, congratulations on your well-deserved award. John, thank you for letting me be with you here this evening. I decided to keep my remarks brief when I learned that I was between all of us and dinner. And so I just want to conclude by saying, may God bless you, and may God continue to bless the McShin Foundation and your good works. Kathy and I appreciate your letting us be with you here tonight. Thank you very much.
So, if the elections were held today, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to file out with this lead table first. I mean, Susan, Greg, Kathy, Ed, rise up and you go eat. And then when your table goes, this table will go, then that table, then everybody will rush at that point in time. But there's 2 lines. I mean, you get everybody. It takes 15 minutes for everybody to get in and get back. And as soon as the last person sits down, we're going to jump into the rest of our program. So, table number 1. They won't move until y'all move. So, we train them. People that help us year in and year out. If you're ever around town and you need a good place to eat, I want you to think of the City Diner right over there by the DMV on Broad. I want you to think of the Village Cafe, the grill over on Patterson and Libby, and there's probably a couple others. But Herb Ruger, I mean, you know, every time we do a banquet, he donates his food to us. So, you know, I can't thank him enough for what he does for us. He saves us a lot of money. We're a nonprofit program. We help a lot of people that don't have money, so we don't like to spend money. So, as you can see, the silverware was a little on the skimpy side this year. I mean, we took a lady in tonight. At 5 o'clock, I'm on my way over here, and we have an indigent woman at McShin. Doesn't have any money. Arlene shot back over there and met her. I think we got her settled in. And this is what we do and why we do it. So I appreciate y'all working with us with the napkins and the silverware and whatnot. We saved a life today by going skimpy. A company called Banquet, been a big supporter of us, a bartered and trade organization. If you got a business that you own and you want to get a lot of cool stuff, look up Banquet. And if you want to know more about Banquet, the guy that did the Pledge of Allegiance, you see him, and he's going to direct it to his wife, Donna, who runs Banquet. So McShin, you go to a lot of our events, you might see these, you know, big tents or generators, or we trade a lot of things. And that's a bartering company. It's very worthwhile to join. And if I was a contractor, I would join and take all you can take and then just never give back, because I don't think they chase you down. So the Chick Jordan, Chick, where you at? Chick is not only a board member, but he helps with the catering and make sure everything looks good and looks right. So Chick, we always thank you for your stuff you do for us. You make us look good when we shouldn't look so good. We got a lot of alumni in the room. If you're an alumni, you went through the McShin program or are in the McShin program, Megan, Jed, just work with me here. If you went through McShin or in McShin, just stand up, please. Stay standing for a minute. Just stay up there for a minute. I want to ask y'all a question. If you're standing, how many of y'all have loved ones or family members that vote? Raise your hand. That's what I thought. Y'all can sit down now. Ed, take note. I learned a long time ago, how many of y'all can vote? I don't ask that question no more. Some of you can, actually. I can vote. The family members of these people. How many family members in the room? Please stand up for a minute. If you have a family of somebody in McShin or came through McShin. Thank you very much. The family stand. Just stay standing for 1 minute. I'm going to ask another question. I know. You don't have to put your hand up if you don't want to on this next question. How many of y'all would consider you politically right of center? Politically right of center. Meaning Republican, moderate Republican, most of you. All right, thank you. Sit back down. You did a good job tonight. See, last year we had a lot of Democrats in here, so it's a different story, you know. Now, Honesty is our CEO standing in the back. She's done a lot of work to get this ready. Honesty came through McShin years ago. She was a newcomer, and she was running off one day, running up Chamberlain. And I come inside and I asked Anthony, I said, where's Honesty going? She's going to use drugs. That was 7 years ago. Almost 7 years ago. She's done so well, she's our CEO now. She came through the program, coming up on 7 years clean. So if you're a young lady in recovery, want to know how this thing works, I personally would give it Honesty. I know she can be cranky at times, but just put up with it. It'll be worth it. You will not be disappointed. We have a lot of staff. My staff, where's the staff? Please stand up. Rook. Y'all stay standing for a minute. Now, David Rook over here, raise your hand, David. He is an incredible intake specialist. If you need anybody to get into McShin or somewhere else, you call him. He will stop what he's doing. He will drop his kids off at the nearest stranger, and he will come running to help us. I've seen him do it. And Mike Mason over here is our Director of Development. His biggest job is to ask you for money, so be nice when he does. He's actually getting pretty good at it. You know, he's been here several years now, and you're doing a good job. Frank back here, raise your hand, Frank. He runs a Caroline Recovery Program up in Caroline. That man right there, we don't pay him squat, and he saved Caroline taxpayers $1 million in 3 years. And we thank you, Frank. And to his left is Veronica, who should be standing. Veronica, you should be standing. She's staff up at that recovery center, too. We know who really runs it. Over here on the right is Michelle. She runs our women's program and sometimes our men's program. If we need to crack them down on, she'll go get them. And over here we have two major peer staff, junior and junioress, Brandon and Blake. They are doing a fabulous job for us. Got Kelly in the back standing. Wave your hand, Kelly. I like the way you're trying to get out of that. She's doing a wonderful job. So we're all in recovery. Who we got? Who'd I miss? Matthew. Well, yeah, you supposed to be standing. I can't pick you out if you ain't standing. Matthew runs the men's house and works week, and then Jeff ain't here. And he got Arlene over here. Thank you. About time. But these are the guys that came through the program, and now they're running it. We're all in recovery. Recovering people trying to help people recover. Might explain sometimes why we got a high level of drama and chaos, but it works. Y'all can sit down now. Before I forget, if you paid for your ticket, make sure you get a free copy of the Honest People movie. It's on the way out. If you're a contributor to this banquet, you're entitled to one of these. If you total freeloader and you want one, you take one. This is the only night you can ever take one. But remember, when you're successful one day, you contribute back to McShin. I know it's hard to get y'all to believe in the mothership, but just remember the one that gave you the movie, okay? Now, I'm gonna tell you something. I'm not an easy person to try to corral, control, or manage. And I gotta say this just with the humblest of gratitude. I have a board of directors that is just almost, I think God picked them. And I'm going to ask my board members to stand up, and my former board members. Henry, if you're a former board member, I want the board of McShin to please stand up and be recognized for allowing us to be who we are. We have some ladies on the board. Several ladies aren't here tonight, but we have a very well diversified board. I think if you look at board compilation in America, we probably got about as good as you can get. We got all spectrum covered, left, right, middle, black, white, gay, straight. We got them all, man. And I think they all love me dearly, and I love them dearly. and I hope they allow me to continue to be the tip of the spear for our movement. However, if that were to end sometime, I wouldn't be completely surprised, but I have other things on my bucket list to do. We have another extraordinary organization in the room. You know, there's an old saying, y'all familiar with Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous? You know, they started with 1 and 2 meetings. And every now and then, you know how they got to be so many meetings out there? A lot of times it was because, you know, if people didn't like the way a meeting was going, they just grab a big book of coffee pot, cross the street, and start their own meeting, you know? All around Virginia and the Richmond area, recovery community organizations are popping up. And they're doing a good job. And they're healing families and saving lives. There's an organization in the room tonight that is doing just that. And I want to recognize the people from the Wilderness Foundation. Would y'all please stand up? We now have, y'all can stay standing for a minute. We now have, see how well they listen? I said y'all can stay standing for a minute, but you did good, man. You didn't listen to me. Peter trained you well. But we now have it in our communities. And that's not the only one. There's many of these RCOs, recovery community organizations in our communities, that if an addict messes up, they can go to another place if they still want recovery. And that is what's so fabulous about this emerging movement all across America. But in our city, there must be 15 of us if you were to stop and count them. Some are bigger than others, some have a little different missions, some help different populations. But if you did it right, and some of them do, they can get a couple months out of us, not have to pay rent, then they go somewhere else and not have to pay rent. They can probably go 2 years like that before they actually have to really get a job and pay rent. Now, I don't recommend that, but we'll let you know. But anyways, Honesty is going to come up here and do some recognition of some awards. So she puts my niece's baby down. Honesty is going to give out some awards that make our mission move like clockwork year round. Honestly, I'll hand you the awards. You talk about them.
Okay. Well, let me bring this down a little. Volunteer. Okay, hi. I'm Honesty. I'm a woman in long-term recovery. What that means to me is I haven't used drugs and alcohol for almost 7 years. Thank you. And I thank John, the board. I didn't have a penny when I came to McShin almost 7 years ago, and John took me in and kind of never left. So, and I ran down Dunbar, and it was not Chamberlain. Okay, so, you know, at McShin we have a lot of volunteers and a lot of people that we try to incorporate, alumni and board members, so we have a few awards we like to give out tonight. The first person, our Volunteer of the Year award, he shows up, he runs group, he rallies them newcomers together. You know, we get some tough cases sometimes, but he dedicates his time, he gets no money, and he comes in and he runs groups and he takes people to their appointments, and he does a lot of work in the recovery community, not just at McShin. So with that, I would like to give you Keith Conley. Oh yeah, just line on up and we're going to take some pics.
Come back here, Steve. We're going to do a big group picture here in a minute. We're still training tonight.
Okay, and the next, he's been a board member since McShin started. I could not have done this event at all tonight without him. I totally probably hung up in his face earlier. You know, he, at all of our events, he shows up, he suits up, he is a very organized person, he knows tons about food, he gives back to McShin in countless ways, and I adore him, and I give you Chick Jordan. Chicky.
You mean with you?
Behind the table, nothing.
The next Community Service Award, I want to personally say I probably wouldn't be here without this individual either. He taught me early in the 12-step fellowship that I am all about service work. He would scream and scream and scream, and I did not like him much when I first got here because he wouldn't stop screaming. But I wouldn't be here today because I got a service position at 30 Days Clean, and now I got lots of years clean. So, you know, this individual comes in, he does groups, he helps especially the men in our organization. He's always looking out for someone else that's not himself. He's got an awesome daughter that comes, and she's raised in recovery and always volunteers her time as well. And when I will give you, he is our board member, Jimmy. He's board chair, Jimmy Brooks. Okay, the next individual, he is like a brother. He came through our organization. He has definitely put up with a lot of my stuff. I get to boss him around daily. And, you know, he has grown as a person in recovery, as an individual in the community. He does our jail program. He does our men's program. He's always on his phone everywhere we go. He is scrolling because his phone is on 24/7. He answers those 24/7 calls. He helps save lives on a daily basis. He is a great father. He is growing in recovery. And the Employee of the Year is David Rock. Your face is so red. Okay. Two more awards. So this young lady, we got a ladies award here. She came through our program. She did not like me at all. She definitely said no to me 8,000 times, and I'm like, this little girl. But she finally threw up her hands and was completely open-minded, you know, about her disease and about what recovery was all about. She volunteers all the time. When me and Michelle can't be in the office, she comes in and does our work for, well, some of our work for us. And, you know, she's really grown in her recovery. She's so young. I think she's 19, if I could be wrong, 20. So she's a young woman in recovery, and that is, like, very huge. We're getting them younger and younger. And, you know, she has grown and blossomed into a beautiful young lady. With that, she's Alumni of the Year, female, Brandy Welch. Okay.
She actually cussed me out for about a half hour one day.
Got kicked off the property for about an hour.
Yeah, that was.
Scared me half.
That was a fun.
I got my point across.
That's right. I've been a gentleman ever since.
Okay, the last award here. This individual is very special to me. I've seen where he came from. I know where he is going. He is very active in the recovery community and the community alone. He is going to be famous one day. I consider him already famous. I rock his bracelet everywhere I go. He is the epitome of what recovery can do to you. You know, we have dreams, we have goals in our lives, and I know coming into recovery, it was a rough, you know, trip to Georgia, police at the door, you know, going to pick up a smoker. But today, this young man, I mean, words can't even describe where he is going, you know, with his life because of his hard work and him staying clean and sober on a day-to-day basis. you know, I support him 100%, and the McShin Foundation does. And with that, I give you Evan Barlow.
I want to, everybody can sit down, but, well, you get a group picture of them guys. But I want to point something out about Evan here. Evan been clean, what, 2 years now? A little over 2 years? And we know, the old timers know, man. You just cause you get 2 years, you ain't guaranteed 3. And 3 years ain't guaranteed 4. You call AA up, they probably give, you know, they probably sell 1,000 white chips to every 10 blue chips or whatever. But Evan was destined for prison. The criminal justice system had him, okay? Commonwealth Attorney Tony Spencer. Stand up for a minute, Tony. This is your baby, okay? He called me one day and said, man, I got this young man that's dying. He's either gonna die or go to prison. Will you please take him? And I, you know, yeah, right, send another one down. That's just what I need. So, you can sit down, Tony. But the bottom line was he got up in the vehicle, okay? Windshield time is critical. I spend a lot of money traveling, buying meals. My board wonders, why am I spending so much time traveling? Because it's the windshield time. If I get them in the car or truck and I go 500 miles in one direction, they're gonna hear what I got to say. So Evan is one of those people. We drove down through Georgia halfway, turned around and come back, almost went to jail, almost died. But he's here. And his mom and daddy in the back. Stand up, mom and daddy. And if you ask his daddy how he feels about recovery, he would be happy to tell you after he get done. I'm all in. He's all in. And it's not easy for families. It's not easy for the kids. You know, it's difficult, but you don't quit, you don't give up. Now, the only one of these folks that get to say anything is Evan. And Evan's gonna come up here. Come here, Evan. You got straight up a cappella. No BS.
John asked me to do this, one of my songs a cappella, so I'm gonna do it. Y'all make me nervous, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try. All right. You can see the pain if you look close. You can see change, trying to peek through. Screaming, I don't want to be the same, shoot dope. Every day to stay sane, who knows? If what I say is vulgar and too offensive, then get ghosts. Cause I'm just painting pictures for my fam, letting them know who I am, gripping a pen in my hand. Why would I hide who I am from my fam? Not fans, I said fam, cause you made me who I am. Oh man, it's a tragedy. I got this evil demon chasing after me, trying to make me another casualty, addiction. The reason parents are missing their kid and they're reminiscing on Christmas and Thanksgiving. And holidays get harder every winter, making them all remember that night when they got the call when mom became a sinner. Lost faith and dad became a hitter, cause he hit her, and sis became a quitter. She quit being sober. See, Alan died from an overdose and broke the family up and made them bitter. That could have been me. That's why I keep it close, this vivid mental picture, and I won't forget the pain I got from liquor. And drugs made me sicker. That stick in my arm, that quick fixer, make them shiver, making me a stick figure. Sick of always feeling like I'm worthless. So I stood up and changed cause I'm worth it. I think I've made a way, and it's working. Knowing that you're powerless. That one person in your life, whether a mother, a father, a husband, or a wife, a friend of a friend of a friend of a cousin, or it might be a son or a brother, a sister, a neighbor alike, it's all the same. You know they share the same pain, the struggle that they carry, but you pointing the blame at the one in the mirror, but you know you can't change them. You can't change them unless they're willing to change. You die inside, but you keep it inside. Afraid to even look in their eyes, you crack the crookedest smile. Rep and fake it till you make it, cause you think showing emotion might drive them into suicide. Now take the wit out, scream at demons to get out. Mama, put the bottle down, we can figure this out. This doctor prescribed, it's gotta be alright, but what we forget is doctors need a job. And doctors need a job, keep addiction alive, cause that's a guaranteed drive to keep a fiend fiending, hoping to die. Pump a vein up just to get high, spend every piece of change up to making, scraping, aching just to get by. And we can say it a million times, say it a billion, say it a trillion, say it a gazillion, infinity times a gazillion, but listen, you can't change unless they're willing to change. Take it from me, sincerely, your brain.
can sit down now while you still can. Otherwise, it's going to happen. You know what I mean? I think that's pretty good stuff, man. I mean, you may not be down with rap, but you Google Evan Baller, you're going to see some things you never saw you'd see and like. All right, this is the part of the program where I invite my board of directors up to stand up front. All my board members come up, please. That's right, just stand up here in front of the table. While they're working their way up, we make a line of the board members. Henry, I'd consider, Henry, come on up. I want to, you were a former board member, you should be up here in the gauntlet too. Guy like Henry, he's a smart board member. He come in for about 5 years, shook us up and said, man, y'all give me a heart attack. I got to take a break, man. But you know, in the past, we give the Bronze Key Award to people who have distinguished themselves in the recovering community and who've made a promising difference in the community. And our past board members, our past people we give awards to, Sheriff Michael Wade for the RISE program he did out in Henrico. He's got a 400 inmate drug program in the jail. Incredible program. The truth is, if any of you want to see it without being arrested and have to go through it, he will let you in there to see it. And I mean it. Just call him up, call me, we'll take you down and you can do a tour. And a lot of you family members, your kids might actually go through there at some point in time. Don't be alarmed when you see this. It's good to look at. Dr. May from RBHA did an incredible job establishing an advocacy movement in the Richmond area, and he got our award 1 year. Pastor Mike Poole, he was the one that led the McShin Foundation in Hatcher Memorial Baptist Church, you know, and started our movement. He got the award 1 year. Henrico Drug Court, Judge Hammond, Judge Hicks, we gave them our Bronze Key Award 1 year. That drug court, you know, saves lives and heals families. We recognize that. Rubicon Inc., 40-year-old treatment center, 240-bed, you know, poor people treatment center. They got the award 1 year. Tony Spencer, healing families, saving lives in Caroline County, saving taxpayers millions of dollars. He got the award 1 year. And you're a true champion of an organization. He comes back and he's got his daughter Josie with him. Josie going to get an award next year, Josie, okay? Next year you come back, you get the award next year. We're going to come up with the youngest girl that has established herself so eloquently and distinguishedly in an organization such as this. Not your mommy, you're going to get it next year, okay? So, Al Jackson from the Healing Place. You know, the Healing Place is a street-level homeless shelter that helps addicts and alcoholics. They're all over many states, and we have one here in Richmond. And then Dr. Scarborough for doing her study, her dissertation on the city jail program and the Caroline program, too. She's a new scientist that's championing our movement. This year's recipient, how many of y'all have not seen the Anonymous People movie? You have not seen this. For those of you who have not seen this, Willingness can take one copy, Peter. Bernard, you take a copy. You would be horsewhipped after this for not seeing this. Your family's in this movie. You know that? They're famous all over America. Mr. Barlow, I'm kidding. You really ain't seen that, really? You owe me a $500 contribution to McShin for not watching that movie. But y'all take one if you haven't seen it. If you ain't seen the movie, take one. You got to watch it. Greg, everybody in this room practically has seen this movie. This movie has changed the conversation in America on recovery, the stigma associated with this illness, what needs to take place. 100,000 people have watched this movie across America. It's going to be up there with the Father Martin video. It's going to be around for 20 years. This is an incredible documentary, Greg. It has altered the course of the McShin Foundation. I believe that. It's taken us places we never dreamed to go. We got people coming from Alaska to see the McShin Foundation because of that movie. So when you come up to get your award, before you get to me, you have to come through my board of directors because they each want to thank you for this. So let's give just an arousing applause for Greg Williams, the filmmaker of this movie. Go that way. coming? I get one in the middle of the board real quick with that, and then we'll let you say a few words. You get us all? You might have to back up a little bit. He was on G2 down at City Desk. Y'all can sit down.
Thank you, John, and honesty, and everyone at the McShin Foundation. It's really cool to be back here. I've come back a couple times since we came with the camera, and you know, this film, you know, I'm accepting an award, but really, as a documentary filmmaker, I just turn on the camera and let this story unfold. You know, and the people that you meet in this film, it goes to what a lot of people talked about tonight, is just the incredible wisdom that's in the recovery community. I think there's a lot of answers in this community, and I think a lot of people in long-term recovery can help us with a lot of problems, especially related to addiction. You know, I'm a person in long-term recovery, and I got a second chance at life when my parents, I wasn't willing to change, but my parents and a tree and a car and those circumstances piled up in a place where, you know, I was able to access treatment, and a halfway house and recovery support. And a lot of my friends didn't get those opportunities. They didn't get that access. They didn't get that, you know, opportunity at a young age. And what you know, it's awesome to see a lot of young people here. You know, I said this yesterday, I'm curious, you know, it's really the most humbling part about this particular award is where it comes from and what it's about. And I asked this question yesterday with a bunch of treatment providers, and obviously some of you have seen the film, but how many people know who Mrs. Marty Mann was? How many of you knew before you saw The Anonymous People? Okay. Well, I didn't know either, really, before I started making this film. Mrs. Marty Mann was the first woman to ever get sober in Alcoholics Anonymous in 1939. And she was told the first time she went to a meeting that she didn't belong there. You know, this was all white, prestigious men who had bottomed out on alcohol. And how can this 30-something-year-old woman be an alcoholic? You know, and so they actually invited her to hang out with Lois in the kitchen, and Lois brought her back to the guys and said, no, she's an alcoholic, she needs to be with you guys. And, you know, she not only broke the mold around that and stayed sober for a very, very long time. There's an amazing biography of her life that reads like a screenplay that Sally and David Brown wrote. But she also lived in Connecticut. I'm from Connecticut, and I used to go, when I first got into recovery, I used to go to this home group on Friday night, and I would walk in this room, and she, I knew there was history in the room, and this was her home group, but I would sit there as, you know, a 19-year-old kid and just, you know, getting what I needed on a Friday night for recovery, but I didn't know who she was. And I didn't know who she was until I started really making this film, and I read her biography. And Marty Mann decided to take her story public. She was the first person in the 1940s to take her story public and as a person in recovery. And she brought it to the medical community, and she brought it to doctors, and she really, if you ask Bill White, who's the historian, we can really trace the history of addiction treatment, recovery programs, pretty much back to her work. Just like we can trace the history of 12-step groups back to Alcoholics Anonymous and the Washingtonians and all that stuff. But, you know, in Edward R. Murrow, do you guys know who Edward R. Murrow was? He named her one of the 10 greatest living Americans in the 1950s. And she was the one who got Bill Wilson to testify in Congress in 1969. And she started the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence, and what this award is named after. And, you know, for me, as a person in recovery who didn't talk about his recovery for 5 years publicly, because I didn't think I could, I didn't know how, and I didn't know why. You know, learning about her and meeting people like John and Carol and people who were part of this movement, I mean, they changed the course of my life. I was just going to do videos and do my recovery deal, and it was sort of going to this training that Faces and Voices of Recovery offered, and they gave me a new language and a new purpose, and the idea that a lot of people out there don't get the help that they need because they don't know that help is possible, or they don't know that change is possible. You know, I can't change if I don't know there's something to change to, and that's the whole premise of this idea of putting a face and voice on recovery, and we can impact policymakers far more with our personal stories than we can. The numbers help, the economics help, saving millions of dollars in different, it helps. But our stories have power, and our stories are what's going to change the course of history on addiction. And our stories are the reason why the 23 million people who are still sick are going to start getting help, and why all the people who are dying, all the young people who are dying, we're hopefully going to turn the tide on the stem of that addiction. And so I just, I'm thrilled to death to have an opportunity to tell this story, and just grateful to be a part of this movement. And it's really not about Greg Williams. I hope when you see this film, or when you look at this film, you'll see that there's 50 different faces in the film that represent 23 million of us, and it's about all of us kind of coming together and saying enough is enough. You know, we can't accept the status quo anymore. You know, I don't want to bury any more young people. I don't want to write any more letters to jail, you know, and I want insurance cards to work when we need it, you know, and recovery support services to be available for the chronic nature of this issue. And anyway, I'm really grateful to be here. It's been a fun time to tour Richmond, and I will tell you that when McShin comes on screen, it's not just in America now. It's Canada, it's the UK, it's Australia, Brazil. We're trying to translate it to Portuguese, South Africa, Ghana. It's an amazing power this medium has, and to be able to capture what you guys do, and just a little bit of what you guys do here and why you do it, to bring that forward. And I'm just grateful that you guys let me in and let me shoot. I'm a little sad Evan wasn't 2 years clean at the time we shot. That would have been fun to capture, and I'll be back. We'll get that in the next one. But there's a lot of talent out there in the recovery world, and we just have to, plant some seeds and let them blossom. But thank you all very much.
A lot of y'all may not know this, but over at McShin, we started out in one room over at Scott's Addition in Rubicon, one little small room. And when we opened up, I was out of money, and I had a sponsor that bought us our first telephone. True story. Within 6 months, we fully outgrown that spot over at Rubicon. We moved into the basement of Hatcher Church. It was a wet basement, meaning we had water in the floor. We took one room, and at every fundraiser that went by, we would fill out another room, and then another room. And then after a while, we get carpet for the hallway. And then we get more carpet for the hallway 6 months later, and then we find out what it costs to run these things, And now we're taking over the whole 3 floors of the west wing of the church. It's a 15,000 square foot recovery center. We're trying to open up a collegiate recovery house so college kids can go off to college and live in a sober house in between 2 universities. We're trying to begin a family program where they have their own office, their own lounge over at McShin. You know, we have a doctor on call that does medication-assisted detox, not maintenance, but medication-assisted detox. We have an addiction doctor on our board that couldn't be here tonight. We're going to have a psychiatrist on call that can come over for those related illnesses. You know, we're cutting tread that ain't never been cut before in this community. So it's important we keep it going. We have to overcome our differences, focus on our similarities, keep healing families and saving lives, because I'm going to tell you what, you recovery people, my board members, you look at those family members and all they're thinking is, we work it out, because their families are restored, their children are living, they're not in prison. Every day I jump. You can clap. Matter of fact, go home tonight, Google TVR6 News, hit on investigative reporting, because last night at 11 o'clock they ran a 6-minute investigation report. And I think they were trying to make the Commonwealth Attorney look weak in Henrico, but I thought it made her look like a rousing star. I mean, it was a beautiful report. It really depicted what needs to happen more. I hope you look at it, Ed. The recovering people, my board members, every day we're jumping in the arena and we're duking it out. We taking hits, we swinging hard, but we're getting it done. We ain't running. We're making mistakes, but we're staying in the fight, okay? Them family members are counting on us. This poor guy, if he becomes a senator, he gonna need us. Because he got problems where he going, he ain't never, he gonna wish he gonna think, what was I thinking? So if we get a chance to educate him, we got to take advantage of it. Because one thing I learned about politicians, once they in, that Chinese wall goes up. So we have a short window of opportunity to get him smoking crack if we can. So he can relate to us. I was doing good there for a while, wasn't I? Y'all get my point though, okay? Normally my wife would be here and would help say a few words and clean up any errors or mistakes any of us might have made. But she's up in Washington trying to make it a better place for all of us. You know, I hope I didn't undervalue anybody that showed up. If I did, I apologize. You know, it's hard to recognize everybody. Just such wonderful, beautiful people. We wouldn't be who we are if it wasn't for us. This is not a me thing, it's a we thing. And one thing we're also very proud of, when we do an event, like a banquet, we say 6 to 8. We mean 6 to 8, okay? Y'all check your time. It's about 8 o'clock, ain't it? This will conclude our 10th annual banquet. We thank everybody for coming. Y'all have a good evening.